YouTube, how the heck you doing? This is Corey here with Watcher Realms. This is going to be the Nightmare build for the Season 7 Gladiator Gauntlet. So this is going to be a little bit standard. Thankfully, there's not many flexible changes with this team. So let's just go ahead and pretty much insta-build this. Let's go ahead and do this. Now, here's the thing, right? This team is a little bit interesting because of how the lane is now developed. So you do realize that this tile is going to be pushed back into here, so you have a little bit less room for variance because Hotset is no longer able to essentially insta deal damage to the units that are passing by, unless you go ahead and flex this team, in which you go ahead and you remove Hotset and you actually put Hotset over here in this particular tile, and then Lily is going to be right here. Now, this isn't going to work as well, just based off all the testing. Reason being is because Hotset is going to deal damage to these tiles, but she's really ineffective as an altar whenever she's in this particular position. So it's not really going to work that well. You would prefer to have a Carnelian in this particular position. Reason being is because if you have a Carnelian, you can go ahead and build it such as this, right? Very easy. And Carnelian orbs will go ahead and bounce from the Torador eventually to the Mari, and everyone is protected. Now, Arrogance is also in this particular tile right here. Arrogance is easily replaced by Ardea. Ardea is definitely going to be the #1 choice for this particular placement. Or you have the ability to replace Ardea with Ymrit as well. But anything that goes ahead and covers this tile and gives you really good clearance overall in this area is very important. Now, the reason why Mari is here is Mari needs to be very, very tanky. She needs to be in basically HP mains or HP subs. It just needs to be tanky because she is going to be the main CC for this particular team. She's going to go ahead and give you those freezes, those slows that pretty much cover this entirety of the map. And in addition to that, if she is doing her job well, you should go ahead and pretty much never have a unit pass here without either Hotza taking them down or Arrogance taking them down. And that's the most important thing. If you have your Hotza very well built, she's going to start chunking these units down. Arrogance is also going to chunk them down, so there should be no opportunity for a swarm to effectively develop. Now, I'm saying Arrogance here, but reminder, right? Ardea is the #1 premier unit for this particular team. Also, you want to try to replace Lily with Carnelian. If you do, this team is going to perform absolutely amazing. This is pretty much the standard team that we saw in the end of Season 7 for Guild v Guild with the Nightmare teams. So, the other variation is going to be the common variation, which we saw at the beginning of the season, which was very, honestly, low performing overall. It is going to be the Torador into Arrogance, into the Hotset, into the Lily, into the Wukong in this particular position. Now, this team honestly just didn't work, and the reason why it didn't work is because it was very easy to just set up a swarm attempt and effectively just run through it. I would strongly advise don't build this team up here. You're just not really going to see that much success. It was just a main fail. The main teams that worked is this team right here. Now, there is another team that you had the ability to go ahead and create based off of what we saw in Overlord Guild v Guild, which is going to be the Torador here. You have the ability to put your Arrogance right here, or Ymrit, right? Any tile where you see like Arrogance, at least in these two positions, could be Ymrit just as easily. The next setup is going to be your Hotset here, your Lily here, and you can even put your Ajax in this particular position right here. Now, obviously, Ajax in this position is not going to be as protected in case something goes wrong. However, if you have a Carnelian, Carnelian will go ahead and bounce over to the Ajax eventually and give you some semblance of protection. However, it's entirely up to you. You can even replace Maria here or your Ajax, right, with a Wukong and get some additional protection in this area. However, you are very much indexing on a triple physical damage team, and so if you are running your Arrogance here, you need it to be a Ymrit instead. You absolutely need some form of magic damage when it comes to these Torador teams because they're very easily taken down if you're just using too many physical damage dealers. Now let's go ahead and hop out of this and let's do some changing. So let's go ahead and grab the Nightmare team once again. Here we go. Torador, and then let's see here. I'm missing the unit. I'm missing it because I forget that Ajax is actually unnamed. Here we go. So let's go ahead and build it. And here we go. So this is going to be one of the variations that I kind of alluded to. You could build your Ajax over here. And what this means is essentially you are covering all of this range. However, there's one thing that is very, very, very important to note. You, whenever you're running this team, have the ability to potentially get bombed. And you want to avoid that as much as possible. So what you need is you either need a A1 Wukong, you need a Carnelian, you need some form of damage to go ahead and mitigate the potential for you getting bombed. Ajax, while he is in this position, has the ability to ult, but you're a little bit relying too much on Ajax damage, and so that's why this team doesn't necessarily work. The only way to go ahead and really use Ajax in these particular teams as of right now is to go ahead and set him up in those two spots. So let's go ahead and kind of reset this up here. So Torador is going to be here. We have Wukong in this position. We have Hotset here, which is already a little bit of a struggle. Ajax. Now, once again, I don't necessarily like this. You can flip this a little bit differently, where you put Hotset here, Ajax here. Once again, Ajax is going to go ahead and cover these tiles. However, this is your only chance of really effectively using this team, but you're suffering a little bit because Ajax is not going to hit any units until they start passing through Torador here. So it works. You have the ability to do it, but man, is it a little bit tricky, and it might not be worth your time to go ahead and build with Ajax, at least as of right now. And then finally, let's go ahead and incorporate Ajax up top here so you can have a visual representation of it. Let's go ahead and put it up here. Torador, Wukong, Arrogance, Ymrit, Ardea, whatever your choice is, right? There we go. And here we go. So this is going to be the team. Now, once again, all your units are very, very, very congested. It's a little bit tricky, and it honestly might not work because Lily is going to be forced to effectively use passive on either Hotset, Ajax, Torador, and that's going to be an issue, right? Also, this team has the ability to get baited very simply because you go ahead and drop the tank into double necros. They're going to go ahead and bait out the Ajax ult, and then double necros will eventually push through and bait the Hotset ult, and then it's pretty easy to just double dogs it through. So overall, the only Nightmare comp that is going to really work in this particular season for the Gauntlet is going to be the Ardea Mari comp, where essentially you go and build it like this. Once again, just so you have the visual representation. This is going to be Ardea or Ymrit, and then you go ahead and put your Mari right here, and then Hotset's over here. That's your only hope. And even then, you're kind of missing out on some damage here. But that's going to be the Nightmare teams. This map kind of really hinders some of the things that you were able to do with the previous Nightmare team, so we'll see if the meta changes a little bit. However, I don't necessarily anticipate it changing all too much. Also, just like off the top of my head, I guess in a way, you could go ahead and remove Hotset here, and then have your Mari here, have Arrogance, and then use a Dahlia. Dahlia is going to go ahead and provide that extra block, that extra slow, and then ideally she's giving you some good magic damage to where maybe your Arrogance can deal with the swarm or deal with the accumulation of units that are popping up here. However, it's a little bit of a hope rather than a reliable strategy. Anyways, that is going to be my take on the Nightmare teams.